When the club head rips inside your hands early in the golf swing, the dreaded inside takeaway, kind of this position right here, it's almost impossible to recover from that. You're going to come over the top, have the chicken wing, early extension, all types of faults in the golf swing. Well, one of the things that may be contributing to that is improper utilization of the hips in your core rotation mechanics. Check out this video and will help you make sure that by utilizing your hips properly, you'll kill that inside takeaway. Now, Tyler, a lot of people that we see that come in for lessons have this motif where they'll take everything in their body and they'll turn everything to the right. And that doesn't look like a pro swing. So when I do this motion right here, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, so in that motion, right, Dwayne, everything's moving together. So basically it's this idea of when I take everything back like that, I'm just gonna rotate my trunk this way, I'm gonna rotate my lower body this way. Again, you mentioned this idea that we really have to be able to disassociate or separate what our lower body's doing from our upper body, right? We want these things working almost in opposite of each other to create a really nice, loading for the golf swing.
Okay, so when I look at a professional swing, for the right-handed golfer, you're typically going to see a crease. Well, not typically. You always see a crease in the right groin, right?
Yep.
So what this means, this is from my right leg. If I move my foot like this, that's internal rotation. Now this is an interesting concept. So my knee, if this is my target over here, so my knee moving that direction towards the target is internal rotation. So if I have internal rotation of my trail leg in the backswing, what it feels like as I do this motion is my knee and my leg are actually rotating towards the target even though my trunk goes over here.
Yeah, and because your foot's in nice contact with the ground, it's not like you're actually going to do this with the foot, but that feel is so important because it creates this nice set and allows you to really keep this stationary or internally rotating while you get this nice stretch from the upper body.
Okay, so now let's look at the left leg. So your right leg goes internal, so the inverse of that is your left leg does what?
Yeah, your left leg will go external, right?
So I have internal and external rotation. So external rotation of my lead leg for the right-handed golfer is where the foot goes like this. Again, the knee and the foot going towards the target. So I've got this feeling here where both legs are turning towards the target is what the feeling is, even though my trunk here is going to the right. Now, what's interesting, when I'm in this position, I feel a lot of torque from ground force that's going to turn me to the left.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because obviously a lot of my research centers on how golfers utilize the ground. And in my experience with amateur golfers, they just don't utilize the ground very well. And I think this is a key reason why. It's because they're not engaging and interacting with the ground in the backswing. They're not creating those torques and that nice separation. And I think when you have these feels that you talk about, again, trail leg internally rotating, lead leg externally rotating, you're creating that feel with the ground, that nice interaction with the ground that's going to allow you to initiate a good downswing.
Okay, so the feeling you want to have, if I just relax everything, it just brings me back to a nice centered position, right? So my feeling is my legs, I feel my legs turning the opposite direction. So I've got basically a pivot point in my hip sockets, right? So I've thought of this visual, like if I use my fingers like as a gear, right? So if I think of like a meshing of gears, notice there's rotation there happening as they go in opposite directions.
Yep.
And basically that's what you might visualize in your hip sockets when I do this.
Yep.
So as I rotate my trunk to the right, I feel the torque now that my legs want to bring me back here. So now on the follow through, what's going to happen?
Yeah, we're going to do the exact opposite, right? We're going to want to really initiate what's going on with that lower body. We're going to create those opposite rotations so that we can send that lower body through first before we start utilizing the upper body.
So what you're telling me is if it feels like my legs are going towards the target, now it's going to feel like my legs are going away from the target, and that's going to bring my body through to the left.
Yep, and again, it's the feel, right? It's the feel of that as you start interacting and pushing on the ground in a way to try and move your legs in certain ways. Then what's going to happen is you're going to be able to transfer that energy up to the body, allow it to kind of lag behind, and then get that really nice sequencing through impact.
All right, so we talked on the backswing, you'll see a crease on in the right groin. So correspondingly now, when I come through here, I'm going to get a crease on the left groin, right? And then this becomes the external rotation on the trail leg, right?
Exactly.
So they invert. So on a really good golf swing, you want to feel the hip sockets are your friend in terms of where there's this ground force that I'm able to torque my trunk, right? And I'm not just going everything like this, right? I'm actually torquing it opposite direction, and so that makes my pelvis really I guess a hinge point for the rotation, right?
Yep, and again, as someone who studies a lot the way the body moves and the way the body works together, you know, some people just need to be taught this, right? They're going to watch this video and say, oh, I've never thought about that. This is what I need to do, and then they can do it. Other people maybe have some body limitations, right? They might not be able to create the internal rotation we need here. And so, you know, things that you can do to work on that. Hey, if I know I need to internally rotate, take an opportunity to do some stretching, right? You know, stand up and do some internal rotation, do some external rotation of these hips. Try and get some range of motion in there. The other thing that you can do too is practice this idea of disassociation. Right? So, you know, things where I'm going to set up to the ball and I'm going to try and move my trunk without moving my lower body, or move my lower body without my trunk moving. And then I always say, like, you know, if all else fails and you want to cheat, one thing you can do is take the trail leg and just flare that foot open a little bit, and that will actually allow you to get in these positions that we're talking about.
Right. So if I feel like your hips are really tight, maybe you got some mobility issues or whatever, if I put my trail leg to the right, I've actually given it mobility to then go internal. I externally rotate it a bit. So now as I do this, it can go internal, right? So if this is hard, well then, yeah, flare the foot, and that gives you more mobility. And this, I guess the same would be true.
Same would be for the front foot. This is why if you see some of that flaring in golfers, and maybe definitely in the older golfer, the golfer that's not mobile, like that's exactly what they're doing, is creating these relationships so that they can do the proper movements at the hips, and it can really help everything in the swing.
All right, so when you look at a face-on view of your video, what you can check, 3 things. Your kneecaps are not going to be spinning with the trunk, right? The kneecaps will be more pointed, particularly on the backswing, and as you get through the squat, the kneecaps, you're going to see them more facing the camera from the face-on view, right? And then especially you can see there's going to be a crease in the right groin for the right-handed golfer, and then as you come through, a crease in the left groin, right, of your pants or shorts, and that's going to indicate that you've done the internal rotation on the trail leg and the lead leg at the right time in the swing. So look for those items as you video your swing from face on, and it'll help you get better power in your golf swing. Rotation mechanics are just one of the elements of a great golf swing. We've got a whole library of content that can help you become a better golfer today. Just click on the link in the description below and you'll find a great library of content free for 7 days that'll help you become a better golfer.